Hello and welcome to today's episode of TSARP. I'm your host, Andrew Weir, and today we have Sam as our guest.
Hey.
So, Stephen couldn't make it today, but we're going to be giving you 600 seconds of web development. Oh, don't ask why we landed on 600. If you did the math, it's actually 10 minutes, because 100 seconds would be too short and 1000 would be a little too long, so we landed on 600. It's totally not stolen from Fireship.io, and really it's not because everyone does the 100 series. But so we're doing it, but it's 600. So since the clock already started, we should probably get into it. So, web development. There are three main languages: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And I'll tell you a little bit about HTML to start off. So, HTML lays the framework for your website. So you can say, okay, I want an image here and a button here and some text here. And, it will put it on the screen, but it's not going to put it where you want it to, and it's not going to style it at all. And it's just not going to look great. It's going to look like you put no effort into it. It will work. It will show those images and it will show the text, but you can't change any fonts or anything like that. So that's where CSS comes in. So Sam is going to tell us a little bit about that.
So CSS is it's about visuals. So say you have this beautiful red button. But it's too small. So you can use CSS to make it bigger. Or you could change the color of it. You could do all of that with CSS. So
yeah,
it doesn't give you the costume, but it can change the costume.
Yeah, so it's what's great about web development is you can compare it to a lot of different languages. So like in Scratch or something, HTML and CSS work together to create the visual stuff. But without CSS, you couldn't add color or change the size or anything like that. And then you have JavaScript, which is the final main language that makes up web development. So JavaScript adds functionality to your website. So when you click that beautiful red button that is big now because you changed the size, it will do something like rickroll you or alert you with a pop-up or ask to allow cookies or something like that. And without it, you couldn't really have a website as we know it. There would be no Amazon, no Apple.com, no Google.com, none of that. Because to click on something or to change something, you need JavaScript.
Yeah.
So basically, you have HTML to lay the framework, CSS to style it all, and then JavaScript comes in to add functionality.
Yes.
So you might be thinking, that sounds great, but how do I store data after, I leave the website? So you have two main ways. We kind of talked about this already. So you have one called cookies. Cookies are a way to save information to that specific user. So it's going to create a file on your computer with all the data. So cookies work great for little small amounts of data. So like maybe usernames or passwords and stuff like that. But if you want to save a lot of data, you're going to need a database. And that's what you call the back end. So HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and everything you can see makes up the front end. But the back end is all the database and other server functions that your website needs. So if you work only on the front end, you're called a front end developer. If you work only on the back end, you're called a back end developer. But if you work on all of it, you're called a full stack developer. So I'll tell you a little bit more about the back end. So you can use different services to work as your server or your database, or you could create one from scratch using Node.js or another back-end product. But a very popular one is using Node.js, or there's also stuff like Ruby on Rails and other languages that you can use to host your back-end server. So if you want to host that backend, you can use other services like Firebase or Microsoft Azure or AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. So that's why you need the front end and the back end to come together and make one big working website. Because if I signed on to a website, say it was a game, and I had a score, and every time I clicked that button, I would use JavaScript to up the score, I would use CSS to make it look good, I would use HTML to put the button there, but as soon as I refresh, my info's gone. So that's why you need that backend to store it. Now, technically, you could use cookies instead, but the problem with cookies is no one else can see your score. So if you wanted to make a leaderboard or something, you would need that backend to hold that data where everyone can see it, as long as they have the correct permissions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a kind of brief idea of how front-end development and back-end development come together, make a website, and make everything work. So I figured to kind of make sure you all understand how it works, I'll give you a good example that you all probably use. So you all use Google, right? So pretend you're already signed in and you're going to search for something. Say you're searching for some photos of apples because you're doing a project on apples. So first, you load up the page, right? So it's on your screen. What you're seeing right then and there is the HTML and CSS. So say you have a text field, right, where you're going to input your Google request. That's going to be done with a text field in HTML. But to make it the right size, make it the right color, you're using CSS. So then as soon as you start typing, right, you're still using HTML. That's all built in. But as soon as you click the enter key, or as soon as you click the search button, that's now using JavaScript to say, okay, I want to submit my request. So now that you submit that request, your front end doesn't know really how to search for things. So the front end says, hey, back end, I need you to search for this request. It sends over what you asked it to the back end. The back end says, sure, no problem. It finds millions, thousands, of addresses, links. Some of them are promoted. Some of them are just the best ones that they could find. And they say, okay, I found it here, front end, take this list of links and use them. So then the front end says, okay, thanks. It receives it. It puts it all into nice HTML and CSS. It automates this process with JavaScript, and boom, you have all your requests right there. So that's kind of a good example of how it all flows and how it all works together. So I hope this video helped you kind of understand the process of web development. We kept it very short, under the 600 seconds. And if you like this type of content, we'll post more of it. And yeah, it was kind of fun doing something different than all the interviews we've been doing lately. But if you like those interviews, they are coming out. There are a lot more that we have filmed and are filming. So stay tuned for those. And yeah, thanks, Sam, for joining us. And we will all see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.